And we're on.
Very good. All right. So good to see you. You got something on your forehead. What's that all about?
Oh, these are ashes. Don't mind that.
It is Ash Wednesday.
This is not the space to explain all that. But if you want to know, message me.
That's right. Well, welcome to Voices of Recovery. This is my friend Phil. Glad to have you here, Phil.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Nice to meet you, Phil.
Nice to meet you.
So I always like to start out asking the same question, but I think it's important. You know, at what point during your addiction, did you hit that wall? Did you have an epiphany? Did you realize I can't go on like this anymore? I got to do something different.
It was May of 2010 when alcohol and my disease brought me to my knees. I had a bottom after a decade-long attempt to stop drinking alcohol. My wife wanted to divorce me. My daughters wanted nothing to do with me. I lost the job that I worked my whole life to get, and I didn't want to keep living. And I had been seeing several psychologists. I was in Boston at the time. I ended up moving back to Long Island. I went to see this psychologist, and she told me that she couldn't help me. Wow. And that I needed to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. So on August 1st of 2010, I marched into the basement of a church in the town where I lived at the time, and I attended my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was a humid, warm night. The room was filled with people, and I was apprehensive about being at the meeting. And several times I tried to get up and leave, but something kept me there. And ultimately, I came to believe that that was God. At the end of the meeting, an older man in his early 80s came up to me and he put his arm around my shoulder and said, "I'm going to be your sponsor." And I said to myself, what the H is he talking about?
I love it.
So he picked me up the next day. That was a Friday night. And he said, "Tell me where you live. I'll pick you up. And I'm going to take you to a meeting." Well, he took me to a meeting at the Lutheran church that my mother took me to when I was about 4 or 5 years old to go to Sunday school. That was the same church that I had been confirmed in when I was 14. Wow. And that's the same church that I walked away from.
Wow.
So there was no coincidence.
Yeah.
No coincidence. And, I sat in that meeting and I heard about people that their lives had been transformed. Right. And the next day, my new sponsor, took me to a meeting at a Catholic church in that one town over. And after that meeting, I asked him if he could take me through the steps. Mm-hmm. And he took me through the 12 steps over the next 9 or 10 months. And it was pretty easy for me to surrender to alcohol. I was broken up, and I was spiritually and morally bankrupt. And people talk about there were spiritual beings living a physical existence. Well, I'm pretty close to a spiritual zero at the time. But I was able to surrender to alcohol, and I saw most of the other men in the room have been transformed. I could see it in their faces. I could see it in their eyes. I could hear it in their stories. And I said to Tim, if this can happen for them, maybe it can happen for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how far we have to get beat down, right? Before we come to grips with maybe I need to change my life.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to change my life. It just amazes me. Yeah. I've read today, right? You and I are working with some of the guys at House of Hope on some of the steps, and through every form of self-deception, experimentation, improve myself, and exception to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic, through countless vain attempts, right? So I just beat your head against the wall. It reminds me really, and I think I've said this before, but it reminds me of the movie The Raging Bull, where he's in the jail cell smashing his head against the wall. I mean, that's kind of how I felt towards the end, man, because I just couldn't grab it. you know, and I really thought that I was the one that, you know,
Yeah.
couldn't be completely honest with myself. And I was like, I know how to fix this. I can end this, you know, pain and suffering. And then, you know, thank God we get that little moment of, you know, that epiphany where we actually see somebody that tells our story and we go, maybe, just maybe there's hope for me. You
We
know?
stop thinking we're terminally unique.
Right.
You know, that, yeah.
Because oh yeah, you don't know. You don't
No,
know me.
You
I'm
don't know
different.
me. But then you hear it come out of somebody else's
Right,
mouth and you're like,
exactly.
oh, wait a minute. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not.
It's the time that somebody
Yeah.
says, hey, you're not special.
Right.
What do you mean?
Right.
Of course I am.
Yeah.
Of course I am.
Exactly.
Then we realize we're not, you know, we're just, you know, and you hate to use that term, we're just drunks, you know, and then, you know, we had this awakening, and God, what a miracle, you know, what a miracle.
Amen.
So how did your life change? So you got sober, and, you know, you were at discord with the family, and, you know, you lost the job, and how did you, you know, because that's a lot, right? So
Sure.
we get here and we're broke, we've lost most of everything, and then, you know, we gotta, what do we do? How do we keep, you know, sobriety in the center of that universe while all these other peripheral things are going on around us?
And my sponsor taught me that I need to take a bath in AA. And
Explain that.
so that means I need to live an AA-centric
Yeah.
life with God in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not about just going to meetings. It's not, you know, it's the whole deal, right? It's the fraternity of Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps, the traditions, right? The relationship with God, right? Because ultimately, I know God is the one that keeps me sober. I need to put the legwork in,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's up to Him.
It's not just showing up, it's being immersed in it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a way of life.
And you know, I tried for a number of years to slow down on my drinking. I tried to stop my drinking, you know, and I couldn't do it. You know, and over time, the disease progressed, and it brought me to my knees. But I think about being immersed in the program is living that AA-centric life, where, you know, God and AA are the principal focus of my life. You know, along with family. You know, and I'm blessed to be retired today, but you know, the things that were important to me in my life have changed.
Right.
You know, I used to be a workaholic, and you know, it was all about my accomplishments, the things that I did, and so forth and so on. You know, and had that egocentric driven life at times. But God came knocking on my door several times in my life. I got married when I was about 25 years old. My wife at the time decided that she wanted to go back to church. And of course, I would have nothing to do with that. You know, and then a few years later, we were blessed and my daughter was born. And, you know, I was able to take them to Sunday school, but, you know, I wasn't able to re-immerse myself in the church, you know. And it wasn't until well over 20 years later, you know, that God had decided, you know, to give me another opportunity. You know, and we're in the middle of these painful experiences. It's hard to see the forest from the trees. But when I step back and look at my time in the program, I see that a lot of these painful experiences, whether it be the end of my career, the divorce, after the divorce, my wife didn't want my daughters to talk with me, the loss of friends, the death of sponsees, all of these things have brought me closer to God, you know, and I've learned more about the things that become important to me. You know, it's not about the house that I live in, the cars that I drive, you know, the restaurants I go to.
Well,
you know?
no, just kidding.
You know, and you know, in retrospect, we're only on this earth for a short period of time. You know, so what's the end game? You know, and so I think when I was about 5 years sober, I read this book called Dr. Bob, The Good Old Timers. You know, and that gave me kind of tremendous insight to the program, and how this program started from the 6 tenets of the Oxford group, and the fact that they, in the early 30s and mid 30s, reading the Bible.
Right.
And I wanted to have a closer relationship with God, after I read that book. So that ultimately led me back to church. That led me to starting going to Bible study.
Right.
And that led me to starting a Step 11 meeting.
Right.
And it's been a blessing. It's been a series of opportunities. And, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be sober, to have a relationship with God, and to be able to help other people.
I was thinking, people must think, when you get clean, that, well, what do you do? Just spend all your time? And I said, look, Alcoholics Anonymous is not my life. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a life.
Absolutely.
And one beyond my wildest dreams.
Right, exactly.
I don't, this thought that, and it talks about that a little bit in the book, right? Are we destined to live a life that is boring and glum? That, we're going to be around these people that aren't interesting, that don't have anything to do. I mean, what do we do? And yet we don't have enough time to fill the day. And I think one of the things you said that's really important is about giving that back.
Mm-hmm.
This, and this is scary too for people that, are thinking about recovery, or, they're like, yeah, that God part, look, for me, it was I needed more. You needed more. So, we came back to the church of our choice, and we went to Bible. I hang out with the pastor. Lord help me, Jesus. I would have never
help me, Jesus.
But I mean, that's what I need. But that's not the case with everybody. I got a friend of mine that I wanted to have on this, that we'll do a StreamYard with Eddie, and he, his journey is different. Everybody's journey is different. Sometimes God just means, good orderly direction, group of drunks. And that's what they get from, the program. They get enough spiritual grounding to do good things and help other people.
Absolutely.
For me, I needed more.
Well, I told you on our very first podcast that Mike was told by a really great pastor, and if he's listening, Dan Jones, who helped walk him through the steps, and Michael didn't even know it at first. But he told him, he got out of jail. He had been incarcerated, and he said, well, Mike said, yeah, I found Christ. And he said, well, that's great. He said, Jesus Christ will save your soul, but AA will save your ass. Now meet me at the new meeting, and it was all she wrote.
It's so true.
And everybody comes at it in different ways, right? Yeah. But, at the heart of it, it's if we don't have, I just celebrated 19 years on the 14th.
Awesome.
And thank you. One day at a time. But, if there's still, I have to practice it every day. Like, I'm not cured. I have to practice it every day. And I think that's, however you come at that, whether it's from the spiritual side or whether it's from a secular, because I know many people who are agnostic or atheist that are working the program. They're staying sober. They're doing this thing, right? And I think at the end of the day, those are great people. Those are good people. Those are the people that have what I want, outside of that spiritual relationship. So
when I first came to the program, I heard about the loving God of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And that was the God that I lived on for the first 4, maybe 5 years. And then as I wanted to learn more about the program, as I mentioned earlier, I read Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, and I got a lot more insight. And like I said, that led me back to church. That led me to the God of my childhood, and that led me to Bible study and so forth and so on.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's what I love about having you for a pastor. I love having you for a pastor because in your recovery, and you said it today at Bible study, actually, everybody is recovering, is in recovery of some sort. or if they're not, they probably should be.
Yeah.
But having you there to reflect and actually draw the scriptures into how is it relevant to my life, and this is how I use it in my recovery, it's very powerful. And some people wouldn't even know that unless you tell them that from the pulpit that you're in recovery, because you're sharing, the hurts and pains of recovery through Christ. And that's real powerful for somebody in recovery. And again, that's just my journey. That's his journey. That's your journey.
And I think I told you my very first Sunday being a pastor, I stood up before the congregation. I was used to from, even just being in Celebrate Recovery for a period of time. I stood up there and I said, "Hi, my name is Jill. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, but I'm in recovery from alcoholism." And afterwards, the SPRC chair came to me, fancy United Methodist word. He came to me and he said, "I don't know if I would have introduced myself like that."
Hey, wait a minute. Aren't I the SPC?
You are now. You are now
okay.
here. But it wasn't
I
you.
remember saying that.
But I remember saying to him, "Why not?" Because to me, everybody's in recovery. I'm going to be transparent, in the work that I do, because I want to be held accountable for that, right? And so we're only as sick as our secrets. And I didn't want, that to be a secret from the congregation. And I've lived my entire life like that, being very transparent about it. There's nothing that I won't tell you, because now I don't hold on to that because of the 12 steps of recovery.
Right.
I don't have to hold on to that stuff and be ashamed of it any longer.
Yeah, that's a relief, isn't it? I mean, when you hear, I heard a woman share a story the other night, and I knew that she had done those things because the story she told, she would not have been saying it public. So let me just tell you that.
Right.
Okay. So then I was like, man, that lady worked the steps, because that holds no power over her any longer.
Right.
And what a relief that is to just be able to say, hey, man, I can't.
That's it.
Can't handle this guy. You need to give me a hand here. I feel kind of, and I gotta be careful how I say this, but I feel kind of bad for people that don't have that, because there's, do they really feel like that life rushes aimlessly and means nothing? They don't, everything in their life is a result of something somebody else does or doesn't do or says or doesn't say, or this person or that person. To me, that seems kind of sad, that they don't have that, God to say, hey, I need a hand here. I feel so blessed that I have that, when things are down or up, I can be grateful and in gratitude in either direction, just because I know that it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. And there's a release that comes from those 12 steps.
Absolutely.
It releases that power that junk has had over you for so long. So.
Well, that's the deal, right? I mean, the 12 steps are designed to help us find God so that we don't have to carry this burden alone.
Yeah.
Right. I followed the circus speaker in South Florida, and he says that the big book is a instruction manual how to find and maintain a relationship with God.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I totally. That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Well, Phil,
this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing
Thank you for
that.
sharing your story.
Appreciate your invitation, and you have a blessed day.
And thanks for all that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for working with me. That really,
thank you.
And those guys, it means a lot. It really does. I know they enjoy seeing you, and I certainly do.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you want to know what these are all about, reach out to me. I'll let you know.
Ciao.